Hello, fellow adventurers. Today I am going to do a review of the German feature film I'm Off Then, based on the real story of the comedian Hape Kerkeling, about his experience of walking the Camino de Santiago. We are going to talk a little about the plot, and as always, about the representation of the Camino. This is Aventuras a pie de página, and I am Esteban, your guide for today. I am going to make an effort to keep the spoilers to a minimum. The plot is based on a real story of the German comedian Hans-Peter Kerkeling, also known as Hape Kerkeling, who did his first Camino in 2001. It is worth saying he published a book about his experience in 2006. The movie was based in this book, and the movie came out in Christmas 2015. After fainting at the end of a show, Hape decides to take some time off, and after a period of boredom, he decides to do the Camino instead. The comedian is practically the sole protagonist of the film, and the plot focuses mostly on him, exploring his experience of walking the Camino, and in different flashbacks, his traumatic childhood, his beginnings as a comedian, and his relationship with God. On the Camino, he meets several people, but the film makes very little effort to explore and develop any of the other characters, being Stella, another German pilgrim, the only exception. Regarding the representation of the way, the great difference of this film with other works about the Camino is that the way in this film practically functions just as a setting and not as a protagonist. The comedian could have had his journey of self-discovery in another place, and nothing would have changed in the plot. The Camino experience is almost absent in the dialogues. One of the few exceptions is when a character says that by obtaining the Compostela, the pilgrim is absolved of all sins, which it is not correct. This only happens in holy years, having passed through the gate of forgiveness and having met other requirements. Another different aspect is that the comedian is represented as a premium pilgrim, always staying in pensions, hotels, and even rural houses, and always eating in restaurants, never cooking his own meals, nor washing his own clothes. Albergs are represented as miserable, dirty places, gloomy and uncomfortable, and without a spirit of peaceful coexistence. Pilgrim albergs were not as comfortable a couple of decades ago as they are now, but we do not believe they deserve such misrepresentation. Also, I've never seen unisex showers, where people shower and wander around naked in front of members of the opposite sex. Maybe this is common in Germany, but definitively not in Spain. The presence of the church is exaggerated, having monks and nuns in habits in multiple scenes. And he also presents himself as a non-heroic pilgrim, hitchhiking, taking buses and taxis. Regarding the cinematography, sadly, the usual artistic licenses have been taken, of filming epic scenes outside of the Camino and showing Camino locations out of the natural sequence. In my personal opinion, the Camino is an experience epic enough, and it passes through beautiful places, so there is no need to film in different locations, and this is a byproduct of the directors not having done the Camino themselves. Also, I think the director failed to make a faithful representation of what it was like to make a Camino in the 2000s, by including many small details from 2016 when it was filmed. Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port is portrayed so hyper-commercialized that it seems like a theme park. It might be like that now, but it surely wasn't like that in the 2000s. The movie also portrays pilgrim crossing the Pyrenees, also known as the Napoleon route, under harsh weather conditions. It is well known that this route gets closed in such circumstances. In fact, the movie The Way makes the exact same mistake, among others. Another incorrect detail is making the pilgrims walk on the side of main roads, next to traffic, where there is a possibility of traffic accidents. The route of the French Way has been planned with the express purpose to avoid these scenarios. Also, the French Way is an actual path, and it is extremely well signposted. In the French Way, you don't go down a grass prairie at any moment of the 800 kilometers. And lastly, I believe the film production was unable to get the right film permits in Santiago, and the few scenes filmed there feel a bit off. First, the unrealistic view of the cathedral from Monte do Gozo. Second, the celebration of their arrival in the Plaza de Platerias, known for the Fountain of the Horses, when everyone celebrates in the center of the Plaza del Obradoiro. And third is no mention of visiting the Portico de la Gloria, which it was an important tradition up to 2007, when it became forbidden to touch the central column. As a conclusion, we don't think the movie is bad, but it is not a great movie either. Regarding whether or not we recommend it, the truth is that the film has left us quite indifferent, which is probably the worst response that can cause a work of art. If you like this type of review, we have a playlist where we analyze other works where the Camino de Santiago is represented. Thanks for watching and see you in the next adventure.